When you're lying in bed at night, do you ever randomly remember some embarrassing stuff you said and beat yourself up over it? If so, what happened? Trick or treating with my little brother as kids. This woman several houses down is standing on her porch looking directly at me and hollers, "Hey, do you want to trick or treat with us?" My brother is across the street, so I holler uncomfortably loud, "Hey, you wanna trick or treat with them?" I turn back to the woman and she goes, "Oh, actually I was talking to those people," and points behind me to different kids. I died that day and my corpse has walked the world for 17 years since. Was at the movies with my sister and some friends. We are sitting there waiting for the post-credits scene. An usher comes in and looking directly at me says, "You guys should just leave. It's not even worth it." I stare back at her and say, "We are gonna stay for the whole damn thing, thank you very much." Then I hear a voice behind me say, "I wanna see it." I realize it's not an usher at all, just some girl talking to her friends who were sitting directly behind us. I could have crawled under the seat. I married into an Italian and Greek family. Very affectionate, does a cheek kiss thing upon greeting and departing. The whole caboodle. I came from a no-touch home. We didn't kiss, hug, shoulder pat or touch each other in any way, shape or form, so it took me a good amount of time to get used to this type of behavior. There was a point in the summer, when I was still new to the family, that my Phil went in to kiss my cheek, and I turned to kisses, and we accidentally brushed lips. We immediately drew back from each other, and he poked fun at me for not turning the right way, only for me to die a little inside. No one else was there to witness the destruction of my soul, but I will never forget that for as long as I live. I had a mate in high school whose dad had recently passed away from cancer. A group of us were hanging out at lunch break and somehow we got onto the topic of Finding Nemo. I don't know why, but I blurted out, "Imagine if Nemo's dad was dead." The room just went silent, and then I made it worse by immediately going sorry. Possibly the cringest moment of my life. I still have no idea why I said it. I did something similar in 10th grade, when a new girl started at school, whom I of course didn't know, had recently lost her mother. I thought she was sweet, and tried to strike up a conversation with her that went really great, until I said something like, "Don't you love when your mother does that? I love it when mine do." Unfortunately I don't remember what we were talking about, but I clearly remember the awkward tension that suddenly came out of nowhere after I said that sentence. She was like, "Yeah, huh," and then went on to change the topic. A few days after I learned from someone else that her mom just died a few months prior. I still feel so bad and cringe when I think about it. I had a similar situation. For context, my group of friends had a fake family in junior year where I pretended to be like the father of the family. A guy I barely talked to, but was a clear mutual friend in lunch, was gone for a while, and it just so happened that I remember he was one of my children, so I jokingly went off about how I missed my child, and more about being his father. My friends were looking at me weird. When I got over that weird rush of just joking about something dumb, I found out he was gone because his viral dad died. Imagine how fucked up I felt in that moment. I helped a friend move once and decided to walk over to a nearby bar one night after we finished. He and his wife were both tired, so they went to bed. My night started normal enough with me just sitting street the bar enjoying a beer or three, but then I got to talking to some strangers, and then we started laughing and cutting up. Then we were buying each other drinks, and then we were doing shots. Then they left, and I was by myself at this bar again, absolutely shit-faced. Well, drunk me decides to be all outgoing with everyone standing outside smoking, and he decides to do this by walking up next to some nice Asian gentleman, putting his arm around him and complimenting his hair. He turns to the other dozen patrons and says, "Hey, who's got better hair, him or me?" I hadn't even done anything with my hair. It doesn't make any sense why I did this. It was just on my head looking like regular ass hair. That group was looking at me like that one meme where all those people are looking at the camera with WTF faces. The Asian guy politely removed my arm from his shoulder and went off with his friends, and soon it was just me and these two older women standing outside. One of them looks at me and goes, "Your hair isn't all that great," before stubbing her cigarette out and going inside with her friend. There's a woman I go to school with. We have mutual friends, and I find her physically attractive, but despite that my feelings toward her are a mixed bag, for lack of a better term. During freshman year, I was leaving a room one day and almost walked right by her. When I noticed it was her, my brain and heart panicked simultaneously. After duking it out, the two came to the conclusion that the perfect response to this dilemma was to start laughing maniacally. She stopped, turned around, and stared at me. Other people who left surrounding rooms stopped to stare at me. I was so mortified, but I couldn't stop. I'm pretty sure I was still laughing as I made my escape. Not my proudest moment. Not something I said but something I did. About 10 years ago, when I was dating my ex-boyfriend, we took his dog out for a walk. When we got to the park, he said that he was going to let him run around a bit, but that the dog can be naughty sometimes and try to run away, so it may be difficult to get him back. Instead of removing the lead, he just dropped it on the ground and let the pup run around with it still attached. Shortly after that, my ex got a phone call, was a bit distracted, and the dog was running around like mad. I called for him to come back, and he didn't really listen, so as he went to run past me, I panicked and slammed my foot down on the lead. He flung backwards and I basically choked the poor little guy. I will never forget the look on my ex's face at the time. Still haunts me 10 years later. This happens at least a couple times a week. The most recent one is for some reason I was off the entire day, like I just couldn't act like a normal person for some reason. Anyway, so I was filling up some gas tanks and sprayed my feet with gas by accident. I was born without a sense of smell. Important detail for later. Once my gas tanks were filled, I called my grandparents to tell them I was OMW to put the gas under their porch, and they told me my cousin and her fiancé was over. Okay, cool, I'll stay and say hi for a minute. I walk in, say what's up, and ask my grandpa for the keys, and say hi to everyone, and for no damn reason I completely forgot my cousin's fiancé's name, even though my grandpa just said his when I was on the phone not even 10 minutes ago. First cringe. Second cringe was after I dropped off gas and came back in. I walk back in and my grandma tells me I smell like gas and to leave my shoes outside, and for whatever reason, after I come back in I just can't keep normal conversation. Accidentally talking over people, looking at the wrong person while talking to someone else, saying things off topic, just being weird. Last cringe was when my cousin and her fiancé were saying bye. I said, how about a handshake, as my cousin is already hugging me. As she looks at me weird, I say, because of the gas note only my shoes got a little gas on them. I swear I was stone cold sober the entire day, and I'm not usually this awkward or weird. Safe to say, when I went home I had a few mixed drinks and wondered if I was actually retarded for a while. I'll start. A girl I was dating at the time in high school was hanging with me during a free period, not lunch. So we stayed in a teacher's room who was friendly and just talked, did homework. I was feeling really sick and full of phlegm, but I didn't do homework last night and really needed it done. So she noticed that I looked deathly ill and asked if I was okay. Before I could respond, the anxiety and fear of responding made me fart, which I tried to hide. That contraction made me somehow sneeze, so I not only made a loud fart in a quiet room in front of her and the teacher, but blew nasty budges all over her. She ended up almost crying out of grossness. She had a weak stomach and couldn't even stand the sight of blood. We broke up. She broke up with me about a month after, and I can't help but feel it was because of that. I've shared this story before, but I still cringe when I think about my first solo date back in high school. I had a huge crush on this girl, thought she was really cool, and I loved her art, so I couldn't believe she said yes. We went to the zoo because it was free, and we were just broke teenagers, and we had a blast. Afterwards we went to grab some food at this place before having to split off to go home. Our trains were heading in the opposite directions and the entrances were across the street from each other, so I walked with her to her side to say goodbye. I closed my eyes and awkwardly leaned in to give her a kiss goodbye, and she went in more for a hug. I ended up headbutting her in the face and her nose started bleeding. I was so embarrassed and didn't know what to say, so I just asked, "Are you okay?" She replied, "I think so." Still not knowing what to do, I just said, "Okay, bye," and then ran across the street to catch my train. It was so painfully awkward and embarrassing, I avoided her for weeks after that. Okay, so my stupid thing I said was at the end of several F asterisk asterisk K ups cause I was daft. I was into this chick for a long time, liked her outlet, was adorable, funny. 10/10ths now strike one was that she was a jiggliness around me, like I was her Jimmy Care. Nice ego boost, but didn't think much of it. Strike two was those little heart things you can send on Instagram. We'd spam the shit out of those to each other. I just thought it was funny and moved on. Strike 3 was I was who she went to for all the advice. And the dumbest thing I ever said was strike 4. We were talking as we walked and she says, "Yay, there's this guy I like. Not sure if he likes me, but we send each other a lot of hearts on Instagram." I thought she was asking for advice and I said in my infinite wisdom that's not necessarily true. We send each other hearts all the time on Insta, and it doesn't mean anything. Kill me.